Welcome to another episode of Axiom TV. I'm your host, Jason, vehemently varsity minded human. I hope you'll work with me today. It's late in the evening, and it's a little late in the evening on a Sunday, and this is our first broadcast ever outside. But so just work with us on this video, because it could be all kind of night bugs. I don't know how to turn on the porch light. I'm out on my porch. You know what I mean? So excuse me for being a little too not appropriately lit for this particular video. With that said, you know what, we're gonna be losing light here soon. I'll try to be loud because there are gonna be cars driving by. Kids are playing basketball with their dad in the background, and the birds are chirping. And who knows what bugs might just land on me, or maybe a bird might poop on me. So just work with me on this one. Today's or this video, the topic is going to be why free speech is dangerous. With the recent controversy surrounding UC Berkeley and the symbolic home, which is the symbolic home for free speech, even though we know it's the First Amendment as a part of the Constitution. But with the recent controversy surrounding UC Berkeley and its denial to allow Ann Coulter to give a speech due to security concerns, as well as the recent White House Correspondents' Dinner hosted by comedian Hassan Minhaj, which, for the most part, I thought he brilliantly roasted the President Trump and his administration, as well as the media. I thought this was an excellent time to visit this particular subject. Now, free speech. Let's talk about free speech. It sounds like a novel idea. It sounds noble. It sounds high-minded. But is it actually? Is it not in its current? Is it in its current form not more of a setup for failure than a positive aspect of our society? Now, first, the government does not grant us voice boxes or vocal cords. So the very fact that free speech is a right, one of our rights as a part of the population, is an obvious, it's very telling. It shows us that it is a mechanism of control more so than anything. Because if you think about it, nature gives you a voice box. Nature is who provides you vocal cords. Do the birds or the bees or any other creature that is able to, with voice, do they also, if they're in the country, do they also need to sign up for the right to free speech? That's the first point I wanted to make. How silly and nonsensical just the very notion that free speech is a right actually sounds. That's more to make you, by assigning it as one of our rights, it puts in our minds the suggestion that free speech is not naturally given. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, that's the first sign that there's a power structure over you, like a overbearing parent, and you are the cowering child that needs permission in order to speak. That is exactly what free speech, being assigned as a right and being purported to you as a right, suggests in your mind. You do not, you subliminally start to recognize or identify free speech as something that you should do only if you get permission to, instead of being able to speak freely. Now, courtesy, for all its courtesy and let's just go with courtesy. I'll say courtesy. It's respectful. It's to be respectful to others. But in many ways, in fact, for the most part, courtesy serves more as a way of control. Whoa. You see, that was a bumblebee. And I'm sure he's still hanging around me somewhere. I don't want any beef with him, but courtesy exists in our society, not or superficially as a form of respecting others, but really it's an obstacle to honest speech. And free speech in its current form is not honest speech, it is more deceptive speech. And let me go about showing you what I mean. The first, another problem with free speech, the concept of free speech in its current form, is that people are gullible. Can we admit that? Like, that's the first and foremost thing. People are gullible. I know in society we purport that children are impressionable, but as I've told you in an earlier video, that it's not just the children that are impressionable, have impressionable minds, but also adults. Adults are very impressionable, you and I, which is why there's an advertising and marketing industry in the first place, because advertisers and marketers are always trying to form our opinions on whether it be a product, an issue, a politician. Basically, they are manipulating our minds on what to think, on the choices that we should make. So you're never actually free. What you think is freedom is more of a veneer. It's an illusion, a hallucination, if you will. And because people are gullible, they say a sucker or an idiot is born a minute. And what it is an impressionable mind is born a minute. Not a sucker or an idiot, but an impressionable mind. And being that we are designed to be adaptative to whatever current circumstances that we are in at the moment, we are nature made us gullible. That is how we are able to adapt. That is how we are able to adjust. That is how we are able to survive, if you will. That is how we are able to be in each moment. Now, if you notice, human beings, we can close our eyes. We can voluntarily close off our vision. We can close our mouths. We can voluntarily stop our speech. And we can even stop our smell. We can pinch our nose, or we can actually just hold our breath and stop our smell. But we naturally cannot close our ears without impeding it with either our fingers or some other obstruction in order to stop hearing. This points to the fact that nature clearly intended for us to always be listening, to always be alert, sonically. You say, well, Jason, what's your problem with free speech? What's wrong with free speech in its current form? Even after what I just said, well, let me tell you, though those two things may not sound like enough of an alarm as a reason to give up on free speech in its current form, I'll tell you what should be alarming to you. People should not, and I repeat, people should not be allowed to say whatever comes to their minds and then be taken seriously. And that's what we have right now. We have people being allowed to say what comes to their mind, and they are allowed to be taken seriously. That's the problem with free speech. And I'm not just talking about people on the right or the left, but both sides and everyone in between. Whether it be politician, businessman, or just the average citizen, everyone is reflexively saying whatever comes to their mind, and no one is ever calling them to have a burden of proof. It doesn't have to come with a burden of proving what they have to say. So that's why you just have a country right now where everyone in the population is just saying anything that comes to their mind. And then when I use the Socratic method to challenge them on it, they become frustrated and give you some cookie cutter answer, such as you gotta have faith, or they can just give you a disingenuous answer that has no merit to it, or that's not based in fact or logic or reasoning. Being on television, regardless if it is an opinion show such as the O'Reilly Factor or Glenn Beck's Blaze, or CNN, shows on CNN, or Fox News, it lends credibility to stupidity, which to the trained mind becomes gospel. Gossip is being purported all the time on the television, on channels that we are told we are to take seriously, but what they're really doing is that it's gossip, that they are, because they're on TV dressed in nice suits and have a nice background, we assign it as, in our minds, as gospel. We assign it as fact. They're gossip because they are not telling us that it's gossip. They are not constantly reinforcing in our minds that it is entertainment, and for entertainment value, that these things are fact, that these things have merit and hold and should be taken seriously. This is why I believe that religion should be labeled as its proper category, which is myth or entertainment. What we call Greek mythology today, or with the Vikings, Norse mythology, those in their time were those people's religion. The Vikings took Norse mythology as seriously as Christians today take their religion. The Greeks took their mythology as seriously as the Muslims take their religion today. The Romans took their mythologies and took them as seriously as we took our religion today. Because my religion is knowledge. My religion is mathematics, mathematical knowledge, the truth of the universe. So let me not say us, but many people entrench themselves within these religions that purport that they are sharing truth with their parishioners and their followers, but really they never have to provide the burden of proof. They can just dismiss it to faith, as that's what many people's excuses are. They can just make up anything, any statement that follows it. Like I heard Creflo Dollar being interviewed as to how could he rationalize that he's a prosperity preacher, but Jesus never states that people should be being financially well off is one of the things that he wants Christians to be. Well, I heard Creflo Dollar because he knew and it was a CNN interview. You can look this up. Because he knew that there was a high probability that the CNN anchor did not read the Bible herself. He gave a straight BS answer, if you will, and came up with his own rhetoric in order to fool or manipulate the CNN anchor into thinking that Jesus did purport that his followers should be financially well off, that was one of his promises to them, which there is no such thing in the Bible. We've already gone over Jesus saying to give Caesar his coin. What else would that mean? Did Jesus go around in mansions? Did Jesus go around on the finest horses, or on the finest in the finest buggies, or in chariots? No. This man lived in poverty and loved and did not mind being in poverty, which is why we shouldn't look at poverty as a bad thing. He had food, clothing, and shelter, and that was enough for him. He just wanted to share with the truth with people that he saw was suffering. Now, the same thing goes for politicians. They are allowed to knowingly lie to us all the time. All the time politicians lie to us. Like, we are so cynical towards politicians and the media for a reason. It's because we clearly know that they're lying to us. But because we are all so entrenched in our positions, it's kind of like asking a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, a Cleveland Browns fan to stop being a Browns fan because their parents were Browns fans, or for whatever reason that they've selected the Browns to be their team. Regardless if the Browns are always losing, or the management, the general manager is calling down to the coach down on the field that to put in players, or what players to put in, or what plays to call, and they have a losing culture there in which they lose year after year. These fans, because they are fanatics, they are zealots for that team, they have taken a position. Their pride won't allow them to end in a losing proposition, such as being a Cleveland Browns fan. And that's the same thing you have with the right, whether Republicans and conservatives and the left, taking their positions behind these politicians, no matter how horrible their policies are. The media is allowed to prevent us or present us with constant bias. CNN is biased to the right, but they claim that they're biased to liberals, and Fox News is biased to the rich, but they present us with biased opinions and stories. And when something is biased, when a story is presented to us as biased, it is not the whole complete story. What it is a segment of the story, a segment of the truth that is favorable to whomever is perpetuating that narrative. That is what's going on. And that is a direct result of the concept of our current concept of free speech. Now, I am not suggesting that we should be like an absolute dictatorship in which people are only seen, in which the population is only seen and not heard. But clearly, our current version of free speech is a misguided one that allows people to be divided and kept in a state of confusion. That's the reason why you have the people in the population today just saying reflexively whatever comes to their mind. They are clearly confused, but in the country we have a thing that we don't like to be corrected. Remember, the country attacks intelligence all the time. It does not want you to be smart. That's the reason why we import geniuses. Don't forget that. That's the reason why the travel ban got lifted. Even the judges knew that our population, as the corporations, suggested, with their bringing in all these foreigners with high degrees, that they're basically letting you know that the population is too unintelligent to perform certain jobs in corporate America that they have, the high-paying jobs. Those are saved for the immigrants that they deem are smart enough to do them. Now, both sides, Republicans and Democrats, should not be opposing each other. Are we not one country? If we are one country, why are we comfortable in division, in being divisive, in being divided? We are actually we've reached a point where we're actually comfortable with this. And this is almost like an inherited belief. Our parents are, oh, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, and so you have to be one. I'm a Christian, so you have to be one. I'm a Muslim, so you have to be one. No, you're a human being with the ability to think. And that is what you have to be, a thinker, an independent thinker. That's what the whole entire country should be. From politician to media to population. We should all be independently thinking based on the whole set of facts, not segmented confirmation biases. Now, instead of entrenching ourselves in a particular position, we should all be sincerely coming to the table with the intention of coming to a truth, coming to the truth of an issue, coming to the truth of a matter, not taking a side in order to save face and be prideful. Hello, don't forget the Cleveland Browns, their ownership is about profits. So as long as they're making profits, it really doesn't matter whether they're winning or not. That's something that you care about. The ownership, which are the people in charge, are only focused on profits. And the Cleveland Browns, for as pathetic as their record is every year, and the perennial losers that they are every year, and the fans who are completely committed to being zealots no matter how deep the ship is sinking, we should look at our country as the same thing as the Cleveland Browns. The ownership of the country, the actual owners of the country, which you're told is you, not your country. It belongs to the government and the super wealthy. That is clear. We've gone over this too many times already, in which I've told you that 85 people are worth 85 people of the richest people in the world are worth 3.5 billion people. What 3.5 billion people are worth. And there's only like 8 billion people on the planet. Maybe 7, I might be wrong on that. Either 7 or 8. But we should start out at our individual positions and then enter into discussion to sincerely reach truth. Now, though I disagree with Sam Harris on many fronts, on many of his purported positions, there is one thing I do agree with him on. Remember, I said in a post before, not in a video yet, but in a post before that, I found many philosophers and many of the people that I listened to, whether I disagreed with them or not, there was always at least one thing I agreed with them on. There was always at least one thing I agreed with them on. Even when I speak to someone that you may consider stupid, nonsensical in mind, there is always one thing that you can pick out in what they say that is actually profound, where they actually make complete sense and give you a new insight into something that you didn't bother to consider before. So that's why our ears are intended to always be listening. Because remember, our senses are always seeking knowledge, and knowledge is what exists in our environment. That is the reality. That's reality. Now, what Sam Harris stated that I agreed with was, I'll paraphrase him a little bit. He was talking about the degenerative effects of debate, which is what our country is wired to do, is debate. not just have sincere discussion or meaningful discussion with a sincere exchange of ideas, but what we're always doing is we've been wired and programmed and conditioned and brainwashed to debate. This is artificial. Nature didn't intend us this way. This is something that society has caused, because nature intended us to be united. How can I prove this? Because when a stranger walks up to another stranger with the intention of establishing a friendship, both are trying to find an equilibrium in their discussion. If the room is quiet, to make sure that you, like when you walk into a library, you automatically know you don't want to disrespect anyone by being loud, or if you walk in there loud and realize that everyone is in there quiet, in order to maintain a civility or an equilibrium with these people, even though they're your family members, they're complete strangers that are in that library, you, out of respect, because you know that that is the same treatment that you would like, you automatically lower your voice in order for excuse me, you lower your voice to allow people to continue on studying or reading or doing whatever they're engaged in that library. The same thing in a friendship. If you're trying to establish a friendship, you are both trying to find an equilibrium, a level. That is not accidental. That is a nature ingrained function of ours. Take, for instance, a person in solitary confinement. People tend to go into solitary confinement fine, mentally fine, but come out of it after spending some duration in there, a prolonged duration in solitary confinement. They come out mentally defective. They're mentally degenerated because they have been denied any proximity socially to other human beings, any social interaction. When you deny a member of a social species that, of course it's going to affect them mentally. That is the reason why we are a social species. Take another example. Notice people behave differently by themselves than they do in a crowd. You'll have a person that wouldn't rape, if they're around a group of rapists, may participate in a gang rape. A person who wouldn't fight anyone, if they're in a group of people who are fighting others, they will join in to jump whoever the target is. Those are also proofs of us being a social species. Now, with Sam Harris saying that we should all be seeking to participate in a meaningful discourse, meaning that each person should enter debate with the primary focus being to come to truth, not to save face and take sides. The sun's going down. Work with me. I guess the light from the screen will light my face. Hopefully it's doing a good enough job. But the sun's going down behind me. I hope you'll stick with me as we lose our natural light. But now the light of nighttime shall be our light as well. But shall now be our light. But we should not. What Sam Harris said was that in debate, people are always trying to save face in front of their side, their people, whether it be the right or the left. And in debate, people are entrenched in their sides instead of trying to come to a truth, instead of trying to come to a resolution, which is what, I don't know, as one country, you would think that that is what we want to do. This is why our country is divided. It is artificially and deliberately kept divided. And my question to you is, are we going to be so comfortable in this that we keep raising kids to continue this into perpetuity? until we nuke ourselves or make water so poisonous with our chemicals from factories, or the whole world is just filled up with plastic, that thrown away plastic that we no longer use. This would be unintelligent. Instead, what the government does, the 1% that controls the media and the government, is that they make sure that we are kept confused. Because the government and the super wealthy, their primary goal is control. Yeah, you can test that theory out for yourself if you want. I don't want to go over a particular part again, because that is their primary goal, is control. Before it's protecting you or seeing about the country, the first tenet and mandate of the government and of the super wealthy is control of the population. And because of this, free speech in its current form, it exists as only a mechanism of control. It only exists right now as a control mechanism. It is more deceptive speech. That would be more its appropriate name as it is now than anything else. It surely is an honest speech, which is the kind of free speech that I would like, that I endorse and that I am promoting. Honest speech, honest free speech is what we should be about. Independent thinking, and that can only be produced by independent thinking. Free speech in its current form allows for the population to be easier controlled. Because if people are divided, they are spending more time, you're spending more time worried about what to say to the other person than actually what your government and what the super rich are doing to you. The ills that they are forcing and implementing on our society. I hope this makes sense so far. Remember that the fact is that the English language, in particular, is itself like a black box. It is its own prison, if you will. And it's a language that's very obscure and easily manipulated through the use of doublespeak, euphemisms, conjecture, and hyperbole. These are the tools within the English language, within speech, that are used by pundits, provocateurs, and propagandists who claim themselves as intelligentsia of the country, you know, to manipulate you, to form your opinions for you, to tell you what to say, to tell you what to think. And like a good little parrot, you just blindly, out of blind loyalty and pride, parrot what they say. Which is why I say that the human being is not an intelligent species inherently. We are primarily an emotional species. It's capable of intelligence, but primarily we exist as an emotional species. The people who perpetuate, or excuse me, yes, people who perpetrate free speech in its current form, which is deceptive speech, do so without care of the families and the friendships that it destroys. In fact, those occurrences are confirmation to them of the efficacy or the effectiveness of their deceptive speech. In other words, if you're not arguing with each other, which they can tell on Facebook by monitoring Facebook and Twitter, if you're not at each other's throats verbally, and sometimes it spills over into physical violence, then they are not proud of their effort in deceptive speech that they implement on society. The provocateurs, pundits, the media, the politicians, the super rich are not happy until you are fighting. That is only fighting with each other, until you're divided and separated. That is the only time that these people are, these tyrants, because that is the appropriate name for all of them. These exploiters, these pirates, that is the only time that they're happy. Now they'll come in front of you and try to look sincere and sound sincere, and say, oh, we don't like that it's so divided, and we don't like that how our country is so divisive. But, like, I'll give you an example of this. Governor John Kasich. This guy is going around selling a book. All last week he was on all these different news channels, media channels, from PBS to CNN, from PBS to Trevor Noah, Trevor Noah's The Daily Show, to, what else did I see him on? The View. And he's going around talking about how the country needs to unite. So someone asked him, what do you think President Trump's what action out of President Trump's first 100 days do you think was to unite the country, has been a unifier for the country? You know what his answer was? His answer was the action in Syria. The action in Syria. He means the bombing and killing of poor people in Syria. That is what this man who's going around, Governor Kasich, this religious Christian governor, said was the action that he felt in President Trump's first 100 days that was a unifier for the country. If that is what it takes to unify us, it's to see innocent people die and get shot over politics. Remember, politics is old men arguing and young men dying. Also, young women and children. That's what politics is. That's what war or actions are. Old men talking, or old men too, and young men, women, and children of all races dying. They could care less whether our soldiers die. They could care less whether the people that we're attacking are innocent. All they care about is that we take an action. I remember Governor Kasich said that the reason why he felt that it unified the country. This is what he says. Remember, the question is what unified the country. He said it showed our allies in foreign countries that the United States military is still willing to play a large role in foreign policy. Now wait a minute. I thought the question was what united the country. What did foreign policy showing our allies and the other countries in the world that we're still willing to play that the U.S. military, because I don't want to say we, because we're not a part of the military leadership. That's who he's talking about when he says we. You know what I mean? The rest of us are just fanatics. We are relegated to being just fanatics and zealots, or bystanders. And just as you're a bystander, guess what? We're all complicit. We're all complicit in these things. And so it just bothered me as why did he go from this was an action to unify the country to then ending the sentence with it showed the foreign nations that we are still willing, that the U.S. military is still willing to take action in a broad sense on the world stage in our foreign policy. He completely contradicted himself there, which means his true intention, what he truly was saying there, is that is what he was happy about us attacking for. Now, this is why, this and other reasons, these reasons that I've given and other reasons are why I feel confident to challenge free speech as it currently exists and the so-called intelligentsia of the country, because I know that they're not making sense, and they know they make no sense, but because they have given you free reign with these manipulation tactics of you are allowed to what you want to believe. You're free to have your own beliefs. You're allowed free speech, which we know that's limited to whatever they want you to say, whatever they tell you to say. That's what your free speech is limited to. It's never really free. Then that is the reason why I feel confident to challenge these people that claim that they're intelligentsia, because really what they are provocateurs, propagandists, and pundits. They are no more than that. That is the reason why I'm confident I can challenge any of them on this, because I know they can't do the one thing that they claim they can do, which is make sense. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope it brought you some insight. My bad it's so dark. Hey, look at that. Ah, yeah, there we go. Focus on my voice, not on the darkness of the... just think of me in Max Headroom right now. You know what I mean? Focus on the glasses and my beautiful teeth. Cheese. And y'all have a good night. Or excuse me. Thank you for watching.